Our speaker today, Ann D'Angelo, has been practicing and sharing mindfulness, both formally and informally, and it has led her to many new discoveries, learning how to bring awareness to the present moment, tuning in to breath, and learning how to be. Her formal education includes a master's in human development from Pacific Oaks College, a California teaching credential, and over 2 decades of teaching service in public and private schools. Her mindfulness studies include MBSR professional training with Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn and Dr. Saki Santorelli, Mind Sight Exploration Series with Dr. Dan Siegel, Inner Kids Program with Susan Kaiser Greenland, Mindful Schools Curriculum Training, and MSc Core Skills Training with Dr. Kristen Neff and Dr. Christopher Germer. Working with children has been both her life path and her life's passion. Why? Because children live in the present moment. Their lives are not about yesterday's or tomorrow, but the moment now. Her mindfulness work is designed to help clients return to the original state of awareness in order to reconnect with their true selves and the world around them with kindness and compassion. She has deep gratitude for her cast of mindfulness teachers, which are headlined by Thich Nhat Hanh, Jack Kornfield, Jon Kabat-Zinn, Susan Kaiser Greenland, Dan Siegel, Diana Winston, the Ojai Foundation, and her beloved husband and her 2 beautiful daughters. Would you please join me in extending a warm and grateful welcome to Miss Ann D'Angelo.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. The format this morning, we're going to talk a little bit about mindfulness, then we're going to do a practice, and then we'll have some time for questions. So the talk today is mindfulness, an everyday practice. And mindfulness really is a practice that you can bring into your life in an everyday way. The definition of mindfulness from Jon Kabat-Zinn, who is the founder of the Mindful-Based Stress Reduction program, is mindfulness is the awareness that arises from paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. Mindfulness is synonymous with heartfulness. It really is a heartful practice. A lot of people think of the name mindfulness. It makes you think of cognitive thinking, but mindfulness actually is a heartful practice. In mindfulness, we observe the present moment with curiosity, openness, allowing whatever arises to be present without judgment. Just noticing our experience, being aware of it. It's a practice of being. Mindfulness is a practice. We cultivate our practice with consistency and gentleness, kindness and compassion. So there are 2 types of practice. There's formal practice, where you could be sitting or lying down. You might choose a certain time of day to do this formal practice, when you rise early in the morning or before you go to bed at night. That would be considered a formal practice. An informal practice is a way to incorporate mindfulness into your life every day in moments. For example, you could set a timer on your computer to go off at work. And when that timer goes off, you just pause, check in with your inner landscape, notice your thoughts, feelings, emotions. Are you stuck in the past, or are you having anxiety about something else that's coming up? You can just take a breath and remind yourself to return to the present moment. Another informal practice, I offer this to children and adults, is to carry a little stone with you in your pocket or your purse. And you just have it there, and then many times throughout the day, you might just reach your hand in your pocket, just feel that stone, bring your attention to your senses, to what you're thinking, feeling, Just reminding yourself to bring yourself into the moment. And it is a practice of kindness and compassion. It's a way of learning to be compassionate for ourselves. I know when I took a mindful self-compassion training course, I brought amazing awareness to the fact that this voice in my head, this chatter that I hear constantly, is so unpleasant. I'm so unkind to myself. I would never think those things about other people or friends, but it really brought to my awareness the fact that I'm really hard on myself. And it allowed me to really be compassionate with myself and remind myself, those are just thoughts. That's not who I am. What is my experience? Bringing myself to the present moment and really being awake to that. So there's great research about the brain, and I know Dan Siegel was here in the forum. Mindfulness changes our brain chemistry and makes new neural connections that create a sense of equanimity and well-being. The practice of mindfulness actually creates a space between our impulses and our actions. I talked a little bit when I was in the forum a couple weeks ago about our ability to respond to things in our lives rather than react to them. And I brought my little glitter ball again today. A lot of times we feel all emotionally stirred up like the glitter in the ball. And if we take a breath, the glitter settles to the bottom. It doesn't go away, but we're able to make a wise choice. We have a clearer perspective. We can respond to situations rather than reacting. Habit is overcome by habit. So when we bring our awareness to our lives, we notice our habits and patterns. We may behave in a certain way and not even realize it until we bring awareness to that. And once we bring our awareness to it, then we can make choices about responding in different ways, being kind and compassionate to ourselves, to others, and the world around us. We can befriend our experience, whatever it may be. If it's a challenging experience or if it's an ease experience, we can bring kindness and comfort to ourselves. The benefits of mindfulness. Mindfulness enhances concentration and focus. It helps children calm down and control their impulses. It reduces stress to enable us to be present. It builds community and provides a common language. It increases empathy and provides a worldview. It helps parents feel less stressed and remain calm. And it cultivates kindness and compassion for ourselves, others, and the world around us. There are many mindfulness practices that I use with my clients, and I'm just going to tell you a few of them here. One is breath awareness, focusing on your breath, counting your breath, deepening your inhalation and exhalation. Awareness of thoughts, feelings, and body sensations. I often invite my clients to notice, where is that emotion? Where does that feeling, where is it in your body? Is it located in your stomach? Is it located in your shoulders today? Is it in your knee or your elbow? And I offer to children really to experience that feeling and emotion. What color is that feeling and emotion? If it had a taste, what would it taste like? What does it smell like? Oftentimes children can be wary of big emotions, and so part of my practice is to help them make friends with their emotions, to know that anger is an emotion, but it's not who they are. We classify things as pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, just noticing our experience, not that it's good or bad, but just noticing, is this a pleasant experience for me? Is it unpleasant? Is it neutral? bringing awareness to that. We practice mindful eating, really savoring our food, noticing colors, tastes, and texture, thinking about where our food came from, how it got to be in front of us, all the people involved in it. Another practice is loving kindness, sending loving kindness to ourselves, to others, people we know, people we don't know, the world around us. The practice of equanimity, noticing when we're in a state of balance and ease in our lives, bringing awareness to that. Past, present, and future, noticing when we're caught up in something that happened in the past, so we're just stuck on that, we're ruminating, we can't get past it. And then noticing when we're worried about the future, we're having anxiety about something, and really bringing ourselves back to the present moment. This moment is really all we have, this moment now. Self-compassion, being kind and compassionate to ourselves. Another practice is open and focused attention. Open attention would be noticing all the things in the room, just taking a moment to look around. And focused attention would be focusing on one object. It could be the present moment stone that I was talking about. It could be a spot on the floor in front of you, just keeping your attention focused on one thing. We practice mindful walking. A lot of people find that sitting in a formal setting, being still, can be challenging for them. So mindful walking is a great practice. Being versus doing, just noticing what is it like to not be on autopilot, doing things, going through our to-do list, thinking of all the things we have to do in our mind, but just kind of being with our inner experience, being with our thoughts, our feelings, and our emotions. We talk about anxiety and challenging emotions, how it is to just sit with that, to be with that. You can imagine it's like riding a wave. Instead of trying to dive under the wave or tear through the wave, if we just ride the wave out, it too will pass. Awareness of sense doors, noticing what's coming in our sense door of hearing or smell or touch or taste. That's a great practice to just immediately bring you back to the moment. The interconnectedness of us all. Giving and generosity, practicing that. And gratitude, taking moments throughout the day to notice what we're grateful for. Our brain so often sticks on things that have happened in our day that are unpleasant, and we forget to remember all the good things that have happened in our day. We might have seen a hummingbird that morning, or talked to a friend, or had something delicious to eat for lunch. And we may have gotten a flat tire that day. And at the end of the day, when someone says to us, "How was your day?" we usually say, "Well, I got a flat tire, I had to wait for AAA." We don't say, "Oh, I saw a hummingbird, and I talked to my really good friend out of state, and I had a delicious lunch." So we're going to do a practice now. So I invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable. If you're not comfortable, just put your gaze on a spot in front of you. And we're going to imagine that our mind is like a clear blue sky. So take a moment to just let your body settle in, listening to the sound of the bell. You might focus your attention on the sound of the bell. And I invite you to bring your attention to your body, feeling your feet rooted, grounded on the floor, feeling your back resting against your chair, noticing if there's any areas that draw your attention in your body. Areas of tightness or tension. not judging, but just noticing. You might feel relaxed, you might feel fatigued. Just be open to how your body feels right now. And allowing yourself permission to shift if you need to, making yourself feel comfortable. And moving your attention from your body to your breath. You might place your hand on your abdomen to help you feel your breath more fully. You might experience your breath in your chest or in the air coming out of your nostrils. Take a moment to just see where you're connecting with your breath right now. Not changing the rhythm of your breathing, but just noticing the inhalation and exhalation of each breath. We have our breath with us at all times. We can use it as an anchor to ground us, to bring us back to the present moment. And you may have noticed that your mind is already thinking or has wandered away from your breath. So I invite you to imagine that your mind is a vast, clear blue sky. Really using your vivid imagination. Notice the color of that blue sky. The spaciousness, the vastness of it. And anytime you have a thought, you can imagine that that thought is just a beautiful, wispy white cloud just floating past. We're not clinging to that thought. We're not getting carried away with that thought, wrapping it up in a story. We're just noticing it without any judgment, letting it just float by and returning to that beautiful, vast blue sky. You might notice that you have many clouds floating by or just a few. Again, we're just allowing whatever our experience is to be, not judging, not getting caught up in if it's better to have a few clouds or a lot of clouds, but just being with our own experience. We might even notice that that's challenging to be with our own experience, that we're resisting it. And we'll just bring awareness to that. can also label your thoughts thinking, if that helps as the clouds float by. Or you can return your attention to your breath. I invite you to be curious about your experience in this practice and notice if you resonate more with using your breath as an anchor, stay with your breath. If you're finding the visual of the clouds pleasant or neutral, use that as your object of attention. You might notice that emotions arise. Just allow them to be present. At any time, if you feel very uncomfortable, you can always open your eyes. And then when you're ready, close them again. Giving yourself permission to really be in this moment. There's nothing to do. There's nowhere else to be except right here in this moment. And the next moment, and the next moment. Just gently guiding your attention back to that clear blue sky or your breath as an anchor, as if you were taking the hand of a small child, just gently guiding your attention back. And then I invite you to gently place your hand over your heart. You might feel the warmth of your hand against your heart. And think of a friendly wish for yourself for today. Some wish of kindness or compassion for yourself. And imagine that wish floating up through the sky and out into the universe. And then think of a friendly wish for someone you know. It could be a pet, it could be someone in your family, it could be someone whose lifetime has ended. And imagine that wish floating up through the sky and out into the universe. And then I invite you to send a friendly wish to someone you don't know, or someone who's possibly bothered you or irritated you this past week. And that can be challenging, so if you feel great resistance, just notice that and send a friendly wish to someone you don't know. And imagine that wish floating up through the sky and out into the universe. And then make one last friendly wish for everyone and everything. And imagine that wish floating up through the sky and out into the universe. And all the wishes that we've wished this morning are going out to the people and the things that we've wished them for. May we be happy and healthy. May we be safe from all danger. May we have ease and well-being in our life. Begin to bring your attention to the sound of the bell, your awareness to your body, and slowly and gently bringing your awareness back into the room and opening your eyes when you're ready. So that would be considered a formal practice that we just did. These are some things, mindfulness now. How can you bring this into your life as you leave today? One of the ways is that you can practice 3 gratitudes at night before you go to sleep, just writing down either in a journal or just saying out loud 3 things that you're grateful for from that day. Another practice is over the threshold. Anytime you walk over a threshold, you just pause, take a breath, notice what you're thinking, feeling. Just bringing yourself back to the present moment. Another practice is challenges and eases. Thinking about 3 challenges from your day and then 3 eases that you had during that day. Another practice is to just pause. How often in our day do we actually just really pause and take a breath? Another practice is embodiment, noticing how does your body feel right now? What does it need? What does your body need? Not what your mind is telling you that you need to be doing, but what does your body need? Does it need to stretch? Does it need to lie down on the floor for a few minutes? Just kind of checking in. Another practice is noticing what comes through your sense doors, What do you smell? What do you touch? What do you taste? How do your clothes feel on your body right now? And the last practice is friendly wishes, which we just ended our practice with, where you make a wish for yourself, a wish for someone you know, someone you don't know, or someone that has bothered you or irritated you, and then a final wish for everyone and everything. When we have mindfulness in our lives, we can awaken our lives, we can live in the present moment, we can live with greater presence, open-heartedness, authenticity for ourselves, others, and the world around us. This is a quote by Jack Kornfield. "To see the preciousness of all things, we must bring our full attention to life." So that ends my presentation, and we'll take a few minutes for questions now.
Thank you, Anne. I'd actually like to suggest either if you have a question or perhaps if you'd like to share a sentence of how that experience was for you, perhaps especially if this is a newer practice for you. So let's share a question that you have for Anne or perhaps a moment of how that experience was. Here comes the mic here.
Good morning.
Hi.
How does one bring mindfulness training into the workplace? I've read recently that there are several corporations, Google being one, General Mills, I believe Target, where they have formal mindfulness training programs. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Yes, I mean,
Thank you.
I think when you're bring your awareness to the moment, perhaps when you're going into a meeting, if you know that there's certain people in that meeting that you may have had interactions with the past that are challenging for you, it's like taking a moment before that meeting and just allowing yourself to be really open in the meeting, letting go of all those kind of past thoughts or things that you get caught up and bringing a freshness to a meeting. I think the practice of just going over a threshold or pausing throughout the day, a lot of times if you embody the mindfulness, it's your way of being, it can filter out into the workplace. Other people begin to notice, wow, he's like really listening to what I'm saying, or he's very present in this meeting. And being open and curious, I think, are great qualities to bring to the workplace.
There are such elements of meditation integrated into the mindfulness. How do they integrate, and what are the differences, if any? And certainly the similarities are quite evident.
So the mindfulness practice is a meditation practice. In my work that I do, I call it introspection, but it's definitely mindfulness is a meditation practice. Does that answer kind of your question? Okay.
Hi. How do you present this to children? At what age is a good time to begin?
Great question. So I have worked with preschoolers. I've gone into the school, and I've worked from preschoolers to high school age. And when I come in, I talk about it as an introspection. We talk about our inner worlds, kind of knowing what our inner worlds are. When I work with kids, I usually start with a game that has something to do with attention, and then we do an introspection. They love friendly wishes, of which we did. Kids are very receptive to the practice of mindfulness because they're much more in the present moment than we are as adults. So it's a great introduction for them. to give them language too, like, oh, we're going to take a moment, we're going to take a mindful moment. They're also very interested in the workings of their brain and taking a break. It allows them time to just be, which they usually are. And it's a great family practice.
While we were doing this exercise, I was thinking, or this sermon came to mind. Change doesn't happen easy. And that is part of this too. I had a hard time with some of the things to really work this. And then I thought of the Benedictine tradition of the Lectio Divina, where they take a line of a psalm or a gospel text and basically chew on it in all kinds of directions, work on that. And I was reminded by a rather interesting comment where a priest in the program said, when Jesus says, take and eat, the word eat should be translated, take and chew. We've got to chew on Jesus and see what different sides come up. Would that be equivalent to what you are presenting here?
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, because you're right. It is a difficult practice. And it's also the easiest, simplest practice, right? And the more you practice it, the harder it can actually become, instead of being easier sometimes. And every moment is a new moment. So some days you might sit down and find that it's easier to let go of those thoughts and to be more in the moment and chew on your experience. And other days you might find that it's maddening to sit for 20 minutes and chew on your experience.
Hi, thank you for being here. I've really gotten a lot out of this. I'm curious what perspective or just pragmatic advice you'd have to offer someone like me who does regularly meditate and practices mindfulness, and then I fall into that very common trap of I do it for like 2.5, 3 weeks, and I think, my God, it's so wonderful. I feel so much more relaxed, so much more alert now. I guess I can go a day without meditation, and the next day, I still feel pretty good. I can go a day without, and then like a week later, I'm constantly, stressed out, and I'm just wondering what you would recommend for that. Just keep going, which I have a very hard time with. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. That's a really great question. I think one of the key things is to bring mindfulness to many moments throughout your day. So, that you're not like beating yourself up for not practicing. Like you said, I've practiced for a couple weeks and I feel really good. And I'm like, yeah, I love this mindfulness, right? And then maybe you don't have time, or you're still enjoying that kind of, I did it, I'm good now, right? It's just bringing many moments to yourself throughout the day, and just, I didn't have 20 minutes to sit today, but I'm going to 5 times today really stop and pause. I think the mini moments really help out a lot. And I think also once you kind of really get that, like, wow, this really enhances my life, it makes me awake, it changed my life, I need to set a meditation time. That's part of the consistency and the gentleness too, is like finding a time for yourself. In the morning for 10 minutes is when I really want to practice it, and I'm going to set that timer, and I'm going to do this every day. And on the day that I didn't get to do it because something happened, I'm going to do that 10 minutes another time. It's like making it a habit, like brushing your teeth.
Jim in the back.
Yeah, I was curious. So I have anxiety from time to time, and I'm practicing meditation, and I think it's really helping. Mm-hmm. But there's still those moments where it becomes overwhelming, and then I try to do the breathing, and I try to bring myself to now, but sometimes it's so loud. It's like your little sparkle ball is in like a paint mixer or something. What do you recommend in those really intense moments? Is it just a matter of waiting, or?
Well, I mean, one example that I shared was kind of like the wave, is just trying to ride it out. But if it is so unpleasant for you at certain times, just open your eyes. Just open your eyes and just be okay with that. Just give yourself some self-compassion. Rub your arm. Wow, this is like way too much for me right now. I'm going to open my eyes, I'm going to notice what I see here, and I'm just going to be with that experience. Being kind to yourself, not feeling that you have to, stay with this unpleasantness. Just practice it in little bits. Maybe you only let it in a little bit, or you stay with it for, okay, I'm gonna just kind of stay with this for 5 seconds, and then I'm gonna just let it go, and I'm gonna be kind with myself that I stayed with it for 5 seconds.
Hi, I work in the interfaith community, and I know we're always looking for something where we can share a practice together, and sometimes it gets to be challenging because if we do a prayer, then it gets to be how do you address God, and what if that doesn't work for everybody, and what if you have atheists with you who would be turned off? So this is to me, it seems like a great practice for that. And I know that in schools, prayer is prohibited in public schools. So do you ever get any objections to using this in places where people think it's too similar or too close to praying?
In my experience, I haven't had issues with bringing it to schools. I bring it in a secular way, and there are a lot of programs out there that are bringing it to schools, Inner Kids, Mindful Schools, and they all approach it in a very secular way, talk about mindfulness, heartfulness, and it is a common language for all humanity.
Good time for one more question.
One slogan that I've heard a lot at All Saints is turning faith into action, and you've spoken a bit about reaction, the impact of mindfulness on reaction, calming stresses and anxieties, but I thought you might speak to whether mindfulness is an ingredient in the transformation of faith into action.
Can I give that to you, or
Sure.
and jump in?
No, sure. The only way I would answer that, what comes to mind is that we all have some unique and particular wiring that is ours, and we have different passions and bents and callings, and they may all be very different from one another, and that sometimes those sense of calling or passion doesn't come really obviously. We may be involved in all sorts of things, and yet there is the one thing. There is an author, Soren Kierkegaard, talked about willing the one thing, and that is discovering the sense of, or as Frederick Buechner says, where my deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet together. And so mindfulness, I think, allows us to get to know that deep gladness better in ourselves, and it allows us to understand, what does it mean for me to will the one thing? Hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you.
So just a reminder, we begin our meditation mindfulness practices for 10 minutes prior to each service in Lent, and Anne will be back with us for the Sunday services next week to lead the first practices. And I also want to bring your attention to, in the OCC conference room, after each service, we'll have a space where if you want to come and share how the experience has been for you, or ask questions, whatever you want to do, if you want to interact about this practice, the OCC conference room will be open with the staff to help facilitate that conversation. So thank you.